Did Hasbro not treat JDF right? Once and always, in defense of Hasbro. Next up on Just Talk, so let's talk about it. And welcome to Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks, and I am your humble host, Node718. We're gonna get right into this because we gotta ask the question, and I've asked it before, but this is the part 2, if you will, in defense of Hasbro. And I wanted to focus on this angle from Hasbro's perspective. I believe I've touched on it from before and explaining it, but I really want to focus on the Hasbro perspective of it in all accounts, because I feel like a lot of times we as fans, we have this habit of thinking that we know better than the franchise, and remember that the franchise came before us. They created Power Rangers when we were children, geared towards us, and we liked it. And over the years, as we've grown up with the franchise and the franchise has expanded, we have ideas of how it should have been handled, certain things that they've done wrong, and not to take anything away from the personal aspect of fans, but this will be tipping into an argument for fans that I may have to address separately. But we see this with fans. We'll sit here and say, well, you don't know because I'm a fan. Hey, check this out. I watched a debate between on a toy channel. This shit is getting ridiculous because we're starting to see shit like this in toy channel. And there was a guy that has a toy channel that is an excellent channel. I love this dude's channel. And well, him and his woman, lady, I believe that's their channel. Might be just the guy's channel, but his woman is definitely involved in part of it, if not a partner. But they have an excellent channel talking about things that go back to the day when we, like, way back. Like, they focus mostly on 80s stuff, if I'm not mistaken, but they go into some 90s stuff too. So yeah, excellent channel. But then there's another gentleman who has a channel focusing on, but his is all about the industry because he's been there working behind the scenes on toys and things of that nature. And they actually ended up, I guess, bumping heads so much that the toy collecting community hosted a debate on another channel about it. And it was fascinating because you're seeing this attitude permeate around everything, and it's a larger argument that this channel is not supposed to be focused on. But unfortunately, this is an issue with people. We have a thing with people now where people are entitled, and we use, whether you agree with it or not, identity politics by identifying as a fan. Now you are the most educated person in the room as opposed to someone that actually works in the industry. Now, can two things be right at the same time? In a way, but we're talking about the business and the industry of trial and error. A person behind the scenes that looks at the numbers are going to have the high ground in this. That doesn't mean they can't make an error, an argument, or their overall how they get to the end result can't be inaccurate, because at the end of the day, it requires, and it's hard to say fans because fans will presuppose that you've already been engaged and love this. That's what the fan is. But which fan? Because you're a fan of this IP or you're a fan of toys? Because this IP is very specific. Fans of toys might not be fans of that IP. So this is where the vagaries of the fan comes into, because just because you're a fan of comics doesn't mean that you read X-Men. You might read manga. You might read, and that could be considered not comics, depending on who you're talking to. So, again, what are we talking about, and or do you specify in that? Now, as a fan, if you're to be the person with the high ground in the argument, if I know nothing about toys or comics or whatever, then you would have the high ground, even though you might not specify towards this specific thing that we're talking about. And my position may come from more of a nuts and bolts without the what you would call it, the nuances of someone that's ingratiated in that community that knows how things move and work from the fan aspect. And then you might not have the nuances that it takes to know the actual business. I might discern it from my back end as a fan, but I've never worked in the industry. So again, there's several different expertise points, even in just suggesting that you're a fan anyway. And just being a fan is vague as hell, because you might not be a fan of this property. You're just a fan of comics. I don't mean I'm a fan of Daredevil. I can have all comics in the world except for Daredevil. That doesn't mean I know anything about Daredevil. So if we have a Daredevil conversation, I mean, there's certain limitations that even I'm going to have to embrace. So this goes again to what I talk about with fans and stuff. And we as fans we taking on the passing of JDF and assuming that this is Tommy Oliver. We watched Tommy Oliver on TV. You met JDF at the Comic Cons. We never knew JDF. We may have met JDF the very few times. I remember it was extremely few because they blew up in their first season. That's what got him on like the talk shows and stuff like that. So we met JDF there. We never knew JDF until the Comic Cons, and most of us who were fans didn't meet him until we were grown-ups at the Comic Con. And then when, social media, we could get to know who he is personally as he talks. But then again, that's still what he's presenting to us. You know what I mean? We don't know the full totality story. There may be things where he has discrepancies about the company that we might not know the company was actually bending over backwards for him. But because we love Tommy Oliver, we fold him over into JDF and think that JDF might not have been mistaken. Or forget that he's a human being and he's not going to see it from the perspective of the business. See, all of us will say, oh, we're fans, we know better. Well, he's JDF and he knows better. And to be honest, Saban created it. That doesn't mean Saban should not have paid them what they deserved either. So the question is in defense of Hasbro and JDF, we're going to just really ask the question, did they treat him bad? Now, let's be for real. In the beginning, JDF, even though he might have been casted as a Green Ranger to come and I don't think he was around during the actual pilot episode, but let's just say when he dropped the original joint and the show, they had the official cast, who he was treating and all of that, JDF might have been around, and I think it's possible he was. But he wasn't scheduled to appear until the Green Ranger episode. And we gotta also remember when they aired it, the original episode, JDF probably already recorded the Green Ranger episode already, so he was just waiting to come out. So when they hit without JDF. It was already JDF surfed the coattails of what was already created. The fandom was already on one with Power Rangers. Now, what was the game genie, if you will, that gave it the extra spike was when they hit their own foe, their biggest foe ever, which was another Ranger. And him looking special and everything made him a special character. He was the first bad guy. He was armored up. He was different. But remember, he didn't create the character. The real character is somebody else that's Japanese. And we were still able to embrace him as Tommy Oliver, because still JDF played Tommy Oliver. He beat out everyone because this was Tommy Oliver. Take nothing away from him. But when pay issues happened and everybody wanted to walk, or everybody was supposed to walk as it was said to, but only 3 did, JDF stayed. The others stayed. Why? For their own personal reasons. But I will argue, after there was no more Green Ranger, because they ran out of footage, because the Green Ranger wasn't supposed to hang around that long, they brought him back because from what I understood, and I don't remember it at the time, but there was a lot of letters being sent saying that they wanted the Green Ranger back because their kids were acting a fool without him, like maybe not eating because the kids see their favorite Ranger, all of this, so they went and brought back the Green Ranger. You know what I mean? Because of fan outcry. given. The question is when they got him back, did they give him more money than the rest? Because he was prepared to go roll over into another franchise and lead that one off of his celebrity at that time, because he was the most famous Ranger, if you will. He became basically the Wolverine, not the leader. That was Jason the character. Tommy wasn't the leader, but Tommy was your Wolverine. He was a Cyclops, but he was Wolverine in one fell swoop. So they wanted to keep working with him. I'm sure they gave him a little bit more money than the other Rangers, but I don't know for sure, because when everyone else walked, remember, he was already brought back, not as the Green Ranger. He came back as the White Ranger. They kept bringing him back. Was he getting paid the same amount of money as everyone else? I don't know. I would even say he probably didn't know. But at some point, they said that he was fighting to get them more money. Rocky left. After you became the leader, the White Ranger, and this was your show, 3 Rangers walked. Rocky walked. Aisha, I don't know if it was over pay. I heard recently that Rocky left over money. I don't know why Aisha left. Everybody kept changing around him. So when people say he was fighting for everyone, I don't know what kind of fight he was having behind the scenes. Because at that time, he was a cash cow. Until they swapped the whole team out, because they're getting older, and at one point you can't keep selling them as high schoolers anymore. I mean, damn, they was in high school for 4 years. And they weren't freshmen when we first seen them. So what are we going to say? So we really do the math. You might argue they were juniors, but 4 years at Bayside High, because we see that with Saved by the Bell. They was in high school way too long. But it's the show. Did they not treat him right? They brought him back on 2 occasions. Back as a Green Ranger when there was no more footage, so they paid for more footage to be shot just to keep it going. And I'm not going to argue specifically for the Green Ranger footage, but they had to keep Mighty Morphin going. They had to pay for more footage to be shot. Then with the White Ranger, they brought in a whole other character that wasn't even in the same Sentai footage, just for JDF to be there, and also, not just also JDF to be there, to be honest with you, because they brought it before the White Ranger came. It was really to keep Mighty Morphin going, so I'm going to be fair. That wasn't for JDF, but they pulled a character over the leader and made him the leader. When at the time, it was supposed to be another guy that was supposed to come in, that became the leader in VR Troopers. But from what I understand, when JDF was going to be in VR Troopers, they swapped them out and said, you know what, bring that God kid over to lead that one over, and we'll bring JDF over back to Power Rangers as a White Ranger. And look at it. His character wasn't supposed to be there long, and they kept working with him. That's the point. Now, Hasbro is not part of this. I spoke of Hasbro. So, Saban is winning right now. Ding! The franchise always came back to him. Even when Disney came back to him. And he came in on the one Dino Thunder? I hope I got it right, but he came in as a professor. Then, anniversary episodes, Forever Reds, they came and got him. They respected the character. Let's go to the comics, man. The comics are all about Tommy Oliver. Let's be for real. The comics actually started with Boom because it was all about the Red Ranger and trying to explain away how they just demoted him and gave leadership to Tommy. So The Omega Rangers is really all about Jason. And the Mighty Morphin now is all about Tommy Oliver. They get all the best storylines, the best plots, even to the point where now it's just boring. How can I be a leader like Jason? I mean, you can't give Tommy any better stories to work with. For all of that, why don't you build up Rocky as a Red in the comics? Build up Adam as Black and give them more plot lines and more things that we could be more, make them more interesting of characters, because overdoing the Tommy thing is gonna make Mighty Morphin very dry, because Tommy has been the bad guy, good guy, back and forth, losing his powers, gaining his powers. What more can you do with centering Tommy now? He's the only one with a girlfriend. I mean, he's gotten all the interesting stories already. What more can you do with Mighty Morphin? Look at the other Rangers and build those character stories and plot lines up and create things around them that may be even in contention with Tommy, so that you could create a lot more dramatic beats and story plot lines, and maybe even fill in the blanks with certain episodes that we've seen on the show that never got resolved. There's a lot of things you could do with that, but it's all about Tommy. And then Jason's with Tommy now, and it's always finding a reason to keep this Jason versus Tommy thing going, and all other characters get bullshit plots, bullshit stories, things that don't even make sense to the character that was presented on screen, and the flip-flopping of plot holes that you created even more of with the comics, fighting so hard to give everything to Jason and Tommy that you created even more plot holes within your comics that the comic was supposed to actually fill in the blanks of from the series. But again, we treat Tommy Oliver's character well, so JDF can't get mad that his character hasn't gotten further in the books. So what else? Well, Hasbro bought the franchise maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. What could Hasbro have done to Tommy? Because from Saban to Disney, you could tell that Tommy Oliver, the character JDF, has always come back and been dealt with. Matter of fact, even when the Legendary Wars, they only cared about Tommy. They would have probably even just showed him only. They didn't bring no Mighty Morphin people, nothing, because no one wants to spend no money with them. We haven't seen, well, because it wasn't a SAG operated thing, there was other reasons why it wasn't a SAG unionized show. So they would never bring back Zach. So we know that Walter Jones, that played the character Zach, we know that Austin St. John's, he actually was. And sidebar, you know his real birth name is Jason? That's fucking hilarious, but we'll touch on that later. But his stage name is Austin St. John's, and he's was overseas, I believe, because he was an EMT, Army EMT. So he was overseas doing that. Amy Jo Johnson, working actress and director, so her timing might not have been there, and I'm sure as an actress she was SAG. So again, they kept coming back to JDF. He's not a SAG actor, and they came back to him. Was his money right? No one really knows, but he's never argued money. That's the point. I've never heard him argue money himself personally. He said for the guys. That's the only time I've heard that he wanted it for everyone. Everyone. Might include him. I don't think it include him. He might have tried to say, get the other guys some more money, because, let's be for real, he was the only lasting one outside after Billy left from Mighty Morphin, and he was in part of the original 5. I can see why they just said swap them out and get brand new actors, so we have to spend money on. Because who would cost the most money? The guy that was there the longest and kept coming back in the most now famous Ranger because of it. But again, now that Hasbro got the property and they have ideas of what they want to do with it, we as fans assume that JDF, they're treating him wrong because they didn't want to do the show that he wanted. But the show that he wanted was centered around him. The Power Rangers was never called Tommy and the Rest or Green Ranger and the Rest. It was called Power Rangers. So, if Once and Always was supposed to be centered around him gaining his Green Ranger powers back when he's had white, he has red, Zeo, he has, it just seems, why are we doing this shit again? He came back into Legendary Wars with the Green Ranger powers already. To be honest with you, I don't know why JDF wanted to have an episode, the 30th episode, being centered around him gaining his powers back. I think, to be honest, the smartest thing would have been if you could have got all the Rangers back, all of them. It should have been centered around Zack, Dream, who passed away, and also St. John's getting their powers back. But even though it was said they showed up at the Legendary Wars, but never took off their helmet anyway. But if anybody should have had a struggle to retain or get their powers back, and it should have been centered around powers coming back, should have been the Rangers that we haven't seen in years. Even including Billy gaining blue back. Amy Jo Johnson getting pink back. The 30th anniversary should have resolved, well, who did JDF end up with? Is he back with Kimberly? I mean, let's get back, let's stop using their real names, but even though I said JDF, but Tommy Oliver getting back with Kimberly, or is he with Kat? Which is it? That would have been more interesting. Were there Omega Rangers? Do they have unresolved plot threads that happen outside of the purview of the story? Remember, 30 years has passed. We could have done so much interesting things, and you want to come back with the Green Ranger gaining his powers back? So are we going to see the Green Candle again? I mean, and not the whole thing is about JDF. So now the question is, since they rejected that, the question is it a shot at JDF to not do that, or is the real question that they wanted to focus on the franchise? Power Rangers beyond just Mighty Morphin, but focusing on Mighty Morphin, but seeing what we could do to add accreditation to the other Rangers out there. And to be honest, Once and Always, for 1 hour episode, we got Easter eggs of a lot of other seasons. But, so is it a shot at JDF to not make a Tommy Oliver centered anniversary episode? Is that really a shot at JDF? Or is it a shot at Tommy Oliver? Or cup half full, cup half empty? Could this have been more about the franchise in and of itself? Because let's be for real, Hasbro didn't buy the franchise to live and die on the character of Tommy Oliver, focusing only on the actor JDF. Because if they can't, because this is what the question is about. Everyone's asking, Hasbro did JDF wrong. When Hasbro bought the franchise, they were doing like Beast Morphers. That had nothing to do with JDF. They brought back one Mighty Morphin character, Austin St. John's, and this is before he had his legal issues. So, how is Hasbro shitting on JDF. Now, some people are arguing about pulling the toys and stuff. I know a little bit about that. I don't know if that was legal reasons or likeness things that they didn't hash out with JDF. So I don't want to get there with it, because remember, JDF passed and he didn't want to do it no more. And it was because he didn't want to cover up the tattoos. He wanted to be himself. But that's where the conundrum comes in. You're not Tommy Oliver. We can recast Tommy Oliver. We can't replace JDF. But JDF and Tommy Oliver are not the same people. JDF got tattoos. Tommy Oliver didn't. And I get it. You don't want to keep wearing makeup and blotting it out, because this is who you are. Well, then maybe JDF outgrew Tommy Oliver. That'll be the next discussion. But because you didn't want to do that, they wanted to try other things. They have other characters, other people that they could work with. And now that they have their thing with Netflix, now they could bring back Zach, who was a SAG actor. You can reach back now with a whole new background and a new company. You can work with David Yost, and he don't have to deal with any antiquated attitudes about how people would feel about just even standing next to someone who is homosexual. He don't have to see fake apologies from people that might have been okay with it, or working with the same stunt cast that was teasing them or making insults towards them. You don't have to deal with none of that. This is a brand new company, and they brought back guys that had issues with the companies from before, whether it was legal reasons because of being working with SAG, or personal reasons because they will be an insult for their sexual orientation. So Hasbro is not the same company from before. This is a new company. Why should they have to deal with the legacies of a Tommy Oliver? And what that sounds like to me is JDF came across an ownership that didn't feel like they needed to be anchored the whole franchise towards just Tommy. And is that a slight to JDF? Because if that's a slight to JDF, then what you don't realize you guys are saying is that JDF was probably making more money than everyone else, and he was the centerpiece of everything. That's why they keep going back to JDF. He probably got paid more than everybody else to do Legendary Wars. It's more likely, because money never was an issue with JDF. The only time he spoke of money, and this is years later that I found out, was he wanted the team to get paid more money. More money or paid as much as you were. And maybe that's why they said start all over again with Turbo. Now, these are me making educated guesses, a hypothesis, but my thing is why is everyone placing Hasbro as the big villain against Tommy, against JDF? May he rest in peace. Because to me, when I look at it, it really sounds like business, a conflict of interest as it pertains to business. And JDF wanted to walk away, and Hasbro was okay with moving forward with centering the series around training and bringing back two Rangers that has not been back since the first time they left. Never came back for an anniversary episode, none of it. So, did Hasbro treat JDF wrong? I would have to argue no, because the only thing that Hasbro turned him down on was his script for making it about them. Now, script for making the anniversary episode about him, which he transformed it into The Legend of the White Dragon. Now, till that movie comes out, question is did Draken, was Draken a derivative of his idea? Now he has people behind the scenes that says yes, it is so, but there's also some people suggested that Draken was the brainchild of the person that started the comic. Now the question is did Hasbro come up with the character or endorse the character, or did they just say, hey, we like your idea, we'll run with it in the comics? Now I'm going to do a little bit more, but let's call this the part 2, if you will, because the next one I'm going to actually do a little bit more homework, because I'm just talking here from what I know. But the next one I'm going to do a little bit more dig deeper to see if we can really see if there was an issue with Hasbro and JDF. And again, I think it was really just business, and I think what JDF kind of came into it with was the respect and adoration that the other owners from Saban to Disney gave him. He didn't find that elevated sense of being here consistently the longest. I forget what word you would use it as, but being a legacy character, he expected that he could have some sort of fundamental how you would say, he output that he would be respected in bringing to it. And Hasbro bought the franchise, and like maybe on set you could say certain things with Tommy want to do this, Tommy want to do that, but the story we want to tell, that's not up to you. And I think that he might have felt entitled because of his relationship with the past owners, that he thought that when they bought the franchise, they also bought that unspoken juice he had, and that might have been where he had a conflict of interest with Hasbro. But I'm just postulating. But let me know what you guys think, man. I'm gonna leave it here. Do you think that Hasbro, not Power Rangers, Hasbro as when they purchased it, treated JDF wrong? Leave it in the comments below, and also leave me some links that I could read, because we're going to I'm gonna wrap this up so that you can see where I'm thinking of from what I know of the series, and I'm gonna do a little bit more investigative journalism with this on when Hasbro purchased it, where they did it, and we could finally ascertain to see was Hasbro being effed up towards JDF, or was this just creative differences and a business move that you guys didn't jump out the window for as adults, looking back about how the original Rangers were treated, let alone why the 3 walked away, but now why JDF walked away just before he passed away. And again, I do believe that because he walked away just before he passed away, we're wrapping it all up, and we're just trying to espouse our disappointment and grief, and mildly using it as a blame game towards Hasbro because JDF is gone and we can't bring him back. I mean, we could bring Tommy Oliver, the character, back, but now we just want to exert our frustrations with his untimely death and place it at the feet of Hasbro, misguidedly, of course, and tying it into their conflict of interest creatively on what the anniversary episode should look like, and almost kind of exerting our grief onto Hasbro as if to create this, did Hasbro treat JDF well or not? And I've seen some people attempt to create a stance that I won't watch the once and only episodes because it's not, JDF wasn't in it. And it's like, ew. Like, he didn't want to be a part of it. Oh, well, in my head canon, it goes like this, and I don't think they should have did it this way. And it's like, well, we're adults now, my man. Like, they gave us episodes that some people didn't like for their favorite character, but it's canon. This is canon. You know, as far as we're concerned, Tommy Oliver is in Aquatar trying to figure out how they can restore him back to his size and as a human being, along with other Rangers. And that's where we're at right now. And this was before he passed away, so now, how do you go about this should you want to continue it? And that, we'll discuss that on the channel. And like I said, I got a Ranger section, so I'm going to talk some Power Ranger stuff for my Ranger heads and all of that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Where you at with this? Do you think this got way longer than I wanted to? But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you feel that Hasbro, where you're at now in this part 2, do you feel like Hasbro didn't treat JDF right? Do you feel like this was a conflict of creative interest? Leave it in the comments below. And you already know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time. And as always, till I have a better outros. Chill.